What did you make of that tax change, that announcement, just yesterday evening?
Well, as a conservative provincial government, I never believe that taxing your way to prosperity is the way to go. So, and they did nothing on the carbon tax. We have a carbon federal tax in the province of Ontario. We cut the gas tax, so we're going one way, they're going the other. But I just don't think you can tax your way to prosperity.
Is this going to hold back investment, do you think?
I don't think so. Ontario's 40% of the Canadian economy, and we're booming. We've got, over the last 2 years, 1 million person population growth, growing faster than Florida or Texas. People are coming to Ontario. So we're rebuilding the economy. We've got capital flowing in. We've had $28 billion of capital investment in the electric vehicle production, supply chain, and assembly. We've got growth in many parts of the economy, advanced manufacturing, and we're building, everything like highways, subways. We've got more subways, more cranes going on in Ontario. So it's a real opportunity to build the economy.
How much does particularly the capital gains tax hike lead to actually more unaffordable homes just because people aren't going to be selling them if they're going to be taxed to such a high degree?
Well, this is, to be clear, this is not on your primary residence. So in Canada, your primary residence is exempt from capital gains. So it's not really going to affect the residential home market. Look, we've got a robust plan, and I will give the federal government some credit that they're investing in the infrastructure to build more homes. So water and sewage, not the most exciting thing, but it's the plumbing that you need to build more homes. We've got an ambitious target in Ontario to build 1.5 million homes, and we're going to do everything to get there.
How do you get the confidence from investors to actually have the capital to do that at a time where growth is weakening? There's a real question about the sort of debt overhang. We're dealing with that in the United States. And the whole idea of how you're going to raise that revenue could curtail growth, which makes it even less attractive. How difficult is it?
Well, again, we're in Ontario, which I'm the Minister of Finance, we're 40% of the country. So as Ontario goes, Canada goes. And as I mentioned, we've got the population growth. We just issued a 10-year U.S. bond yesterday. It was very well received, and we had more investors for a U.S. 10-year deal out of Europe, Asia, and the Middle East than we had in the U.S. So we're getting broad demand. And so I think that we're just going to continue building the infrastructure, rebuilding that economy. And the other thing that we're doing with that population growth, we put a lot of money into reskilling and retraining the workers, and particularly in the skilled trades, because you need people who actually know how to build the hospitals, the highways, the subways.
You want that population growth. That's what's interesting, Keir. When I talk to you, when I hear you speak, you are fiscally somewhat conservative. But when it comes to immigration, you have a very different view than maybe some Republicans might have in this country. Your population in your province has gone up to 16 million. This is by design. It's what you want to see as well. What is that turning out to be like? How is that working out? Are you able to build housing quickly enough to accommodate the people that are coming into your area?
It's a good question, and yeah, it's not. We can't have immigration and not have the infrastructure in place: the schools, the hospitals, the highways, the subways, the transit to move people. So it's a balance. I'm the son of Hungarian refugees from World War II, and other than Indigenous, everyone in Canada came from somewhere else. So it's been the Ontario dream, the Canadian dream. We've been a beacon of stability and hope for many people around the world. So we welcome that. But we have an obligation in Canada to make sure that we can accommodate that growth. And I think that's what you're talking about. And we've got a plan in Ontario to do that.
A lot of analysts I talk to say the United States trains high-skilled workers and Canada steals them. Is that actually what you see going on?
We're pretty shameless in Canada. So we accept people from all over the world. And my wife is American, born here in New York. That's the tradition and history of Canada, that we're welcoming of people around the world. And they just want to, when they come to Canada, they want to have a good job, they want to feel safe, they want to be able to raise a family. So that's why our government is very focused on making sure that we combat crime, we have the infrastructure, we rebuild the economy, and we train the workers for the jobs of tomorrow.
This feels like a big investment phase for you, and not just you, but also at the federal government level as well. How do you balance the budget with that in mind?
Yeah. So in Ontario, I'm the only major jurisdiction in Canada to have a path to balance. We balance at the end of in about 3 years. So we have a path to balance. Yesterday, the federal government, they did not have a path to balance over the 5-year period. We're committed as Conservatives in Ontario we think we can do both. We think you can have a healthy economy and a healthy balance sheet. You can do both. And that means that we're not passing on a lower standard of living to the next generation, or that they have to raise taxes or cut spending.
How do you then adjust expectations when it comes to benefits that people receive from the government? This is a question that the United States is facing in a significant way, given the deficit here. Do you have to cut back in certain areas in order to provide that stability for future generations?
No, we don't. You know, we do index some of the support payments, like our Ontario Disability Support Program, low-income seniors, we index it to inflation. But we've chosen a different path to be able to afford all those payments and all the infrastructure that we're building by growing the economy. So we just believe in economic prosperity and putting in place the conditions to be able to let people and families and businesses grow.
Yesterday, we had Jay Powell sitting next to the Bank of Canada governor, and they're talking about the export back and forth and the friendly relations between these two countries. But this administration, with the Inflation Reduction Act, many in Canada lobbied before it came out, saying this was protectionist to the United States. How is this? Where do you see this going now? Have they assuaged the concerns that the Canadian government had before this came out?
Yeah, there were some concerns for sure. Buy only American. And we said, hey, look, we've been a trading partner for a couple hundred years and on good terms. We're your friend. We're your ally. Work with us. So we found some common ground. And to their credit, the administration excluded Canada from that provision. The Inflation Reduction Act, we responded. You know, we'd prefer not to see protectionist type measures. We're a free trading country. We championed free trade in 1988 with Prime Minister Mulroney, who sadly recently passed away. But we continue to believe in free trade, and the United States is our best friend and ally on the planet. So we'll continue to find ways, as we have for the last couple of hundred years, to do deals.
It's ideal to find someone else that believes in free trade. Can you find them right now? Do they exist? Who are they?
Well, we're a small, open economy, so we do continue to trade. We have a trade deal with Europe. We have a trade deal, obviously, with the U.S. We do a lot with Asia. As I just mentioned, our bond issuance was...
Oh, without a doubt. The reason I asked the question, Minister, as you know, it's all well and good you believing in free trade. I do as well. But the problem is there are leeches on the free trade system, and one of them has been China, which is why we're in this position anyway. And what we're seeing now is the rise of industrial policy in America because of what's happened in China, because China's been very successful developing industry doing just that. We're going to see it in Europe too. How does Canada compete in a world where everyone seems to be drifting towards really big subsidies and manufacturing that is local and not international?
That's a very fair point. You know, we just continue to find ways, like in advanced manufacturing, life sciences, technologies, to set the conditions within. Government doesn't create those jobs. The private sector does. So our view is, you know, as Prime Minister Harold Macmillan said many years ago, the toughest thing in government is events, dear boy, events. So we deal with events, and we're very nimble in Canada. We're a trading country, and so we know that we'll be able to come out the other side through the economic cycles.